Hello, everybody, and welcome to part two of HR in the Lead. Today, Angela Lewis has kindly decided to join us. Just if you missed the first part, my name is Dash, and I'm a marketing manager at Impraise. And would you mind giving us a short introduction about you and your previous jobs as well?
Sure. So at the moment, I'm head of HR consulting at Coca-Cola Amatil. Coca-Cola Amatil's a bottler for, as you guys would know, the Coke company. So what I do is I head up a team of about 6, and we support and partner with the business. I've been in HR for probably about 15 years now, doing HR generalism all over the world. So yeah, hopefully I can impart some interesting things with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that you've also spent so much time in other big organizations like Disney and Amazon. So you've got so much experience to call on, which will be super useful for everybody listening. So let's dive straight into it. There's going to be 3 topics that we discuss here today, some focused on the remote working circumstances, but just general HR conversation. So the first one's going to be about engagement. Would you mind sharing with us how you currently at Coca-Cola and your other jobs have enabled managers to build trust within their teams, both internally and in remote circumstances?
So I think for me, trust is probably the most important thing. Being a leader, having my team trust me is probably going to make or break me. Really, I think the key around it that I found is 3 main things. So being available is really important. I know we're busy. I know we're trying to get things done, but being available for them when they actually need us is really important. Being transparent. So often we think, hey, we need to keep this all within our bubble, and as managers, we got to protect them. Totally get that. And I think there needs to be a healthy balance, but transparency is a really key thing as well. And then finally, probably something that I've grown with is the ability to be vulnerable. People talk about the trust equation, and we all hopefully are aware of what that trust equation has as part of it is vulnerability. So us being able to actually be our real, genuine, authentic selves as managers.
Nice. And also with that equation that you speak of, do you get other managers outside of the HR department coming to you for sort of training or quick like tips on how to do that within their own teams?
Yeah, so the managers we have a lot of new managers. And I think one of the things that I've noticed in a lot of organizations that I've worked in is, knowledge is what gets you into the management position, which we all see. So you're really good at what you do, but you may not have led people before. So for us, it's really about how you impart kind of things like the trust equation, things like how to be vulnerable. Other things that I talk about is the 5 dysfunctions of a team, which is a really awesome book and really helps you, and trust being one of the key pillars on that. So educating them with some of these kind of things helps them to be aware as they move into these management positions of the people and their teams.
Yeah. I really like your point on new managers because you're exactly right. Technical ability doesn't always translate into management skills. And it kind of leads really nicely into the next question in terms of productivity. And how do you actually get a hold of what are the expectations? What are your team working on? What's the visibility of what they're delivering on if you don't have that as a remote manager? And if you're a new manager and you have to try and juggle these prioritizations?
Yeah, I honestly don't envy new managers who are being thrown into a position of remote workers at the moment. I think it'll really be a sink or swim kind of position for them at the moment, and hopefully their HR teams and some other tools that will be available to them will help them to actually swim. What I would say is using technology so that, we may not have used it before. So as an example, at Coke, recently we rolled out MS Teams. So it took us, that was planned to be rolled out in August. I think we rolled it out in 3 weeks. And we did some really quick tutorials on how to utilize it. People have found it to be much easier because we can use it as a platform for everything. So I would say not just that one, but any kind of technology you can embrace at this time is really important to kind of be able to set and use it to refer back to as a team for expectations.
Right.
The key principle around managing expectations to me really is clarity. So clarity on what needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're all sitting in our remote spaces and we have a number of other things happening for us. We have maybe kids in the background, we have partners who are stealing your bandwidth. So you might feel as though, you know, gosh, I feel like I'm not quite sure what I need to get done today. So as a manager, I think it's really important to be clear on what your expectations are and when you need them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess finally, just keeping feedback up. So we talk about clarity of expectations as telling. Often it's also about receiving the feedback. So the clearer that I am on the feedback that I'm getting, the clearer I'll be on what I need to do in the future and where I need to go from here.
Mm-hmm. And also about the feedback's a really nice loop, because if someone is struggling to deliver on the task that you expect them to deliver, and you don't know that they're struggling, or there's something else that's come up in the way, like a bottleneck, unless somebody tells you, there's no way you're going to know. So definitely that feedback loop and two-way conversation is super important. And
Yeah, exactly. And I would say on that, you know, during this time, I think managers will be hesitant, and I don't blame them to be thinking about putting in place performance measurement or performance improvement plans. But it's just really important to make sure that we keep the consistency in that space. We can't just drop off a cliff and go, oh, no, they're working from home, we can't bother them, or, you know, we can't manage performance. There is a way of doing that effectively remotely, and, you know, that doing that will actually help you to ensure that there is going to be that consistency of performance when they return to the workforce. So
yeah, definitely. And especially people are already juggling so much change as it is, by changing more of things that they're used to and the consistent processes that they're expecting from the company would be
exactly.
detrimental, I think, in the long term as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then on that last point, then the support, and you talked about already, is being consistent and being there for your teams and being vulnerable. Are there specific technologies and other tools that you can have in place to allow people to collaborate across teams, and both, not just remotely, but in person as well? Is there something managers and HR can be doing to support that?
Yeah, I think, you know, collaboration for us, and in most businesses that I've worked in, there's a few I've seen it done really well. So as you'd expect in Amazon, collaboration was done really well. We constantly had cross-pollination of, so as we looked at things like selling books, you know, how did we include that in other areas such as, you know, the videos and the online content. So driving in from a book being #1 seller into how we produce it through a film studio at Amazon to be, you know, potentially one of their Amazon Prime series. So constant cross-pollination from business areas there. I would say that there is a struggle at the moment in Coke, because I think what we do is we go, hey, look, we sell Coke within supermarkets, we sell Coke within, you know, dairies, or what you guys would call sort of convenience stores. So, you know, as we look at trying to make sure that there is collaboration, we need to have cross-pollination of projects. As you'll be aware, it's going to be a whole different way of us selling at the moment. And that's going to look a lot like us moving online and supporting small businesses going, hey, I don't know the first thing about selling my products online. So how do we use some skill sets within Coke to really cross-pollinate and collaborate to enable customers as the end journey? So that's probably one of the key things, is making sure that collaboration is used as a, not just seen within your team, but in the wider business as well. What I would also say is, you know, how a manager enables a team to collaborate has to be, if you really think about it, in both teams' best interest. Collaboration is not just one team saying, I want this team to do this. It's about really going, what do they need out of it as a team? What do we need out of it as a team? And how do we work together to make that happen? So a tip for managers, find out what the other team needs from it, or find out what the other team member will gain from this, and then use that to collaborate together.
Yeah, nice. I really like that, supporting internally and external businesses too, because at the end of the day, we're serving a population outside of your internal teams as well. So that's a nice connection there. And if you don't have an answer, it's always you can ask. There's expertise outside of your team.
Exactly.
There's support available if you just ask. So I really like that.
Yeah.
All right. So there's only one more question that's really useful information, and I don't know if you've got anything else to share, but I'm going to ask you: is there like something that you've really found that this remote working has brought up a new insight, or any challenges that you've tackled in a different way that you'd like to share with other HR leaders?
One thing I would say is I've noticed within the business at times, there's the view of how long until things go back to normal? What's going to happen when things go back to normal? And as you will have heard throughout everywhere, things might not go back to normal. And even if they do, what can we take from this time and what can we really learn from it? I really think it's important for us to step back and say, some of those things we had on the back burner, how do we accelerate them? So, for example, at Coke, flexible working being one of them, a lot of companies will have flexible working in place and think of it just as remote working. But we need to think about it as more than that. What does it mean for not just sitting at home, but what does it mean about hours, school terms, care, all of those sorts of things, study, accelerating yourself so you don't just have a one path, career. You might want to expand that. So how do we as a business think outside what was the normal and getting back to it and really start to think about broadening our horizons from this learning?
Yeah, nice. That's a really good one. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your time. I know it's you've got your own family as well that you've got to look after. So that's all from both of us, and we'll hopefully bring you part 3 again soon. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.